Hello and welcome everyone. I am Ujjwal from Aspire Systems. I will be your host and moderator for today's session on enterprise architecture. Are you ready for the transformation? I would like to thank everyone for taking out your time to join us for this session. As you all know, enterprise architecture practice puts forth blueprint, roadmap, discipline standards, and processes for organizations to achieve technology-fueled business transformation. In today's session, we would learn on the approach organizations should adopt for enterprise architecture, the frameworks, methodologies, and solution for it, as well as use of iServer in rapid creation of Visio stakeholder views. We will have all the participants' phones set to mute. There will be a 10-minute Q&A session at the end. Please use your chat window to ask questions. We'll also record the whole presentation and share with all of you in 2 to 3 days. To give you a brief overview of Aspire Systems, we are an IT services provider from past 14 years. We have 60 plus active engagements and over 1,000 aspirants working on our core competencies in cloud, enterprise architecture, SOA, BPM, etc. We are also a Gartner listed product engineering services provider. We have office in US, UK, India, and UAE. We have won several awards in recent years, including GNOV's Top 20 R&D Services Provider and NASSCOM IT Innovator. We have also been featured as Top 100 Great Place to Work for from past 3 years continuously. Peter will be providing a brief overview of Orbis software and iServer during his presentation. Today, we have the pleasure of having 2 industry experts on enterprise architecture. Hari is a senior enterprise architect in Aspire with 15 years of experience in defining enterprise-level architecture solutions. He is also a subject matter expert on enterprise architecture, IT portfolio management, etc., and is an Oracle certified SOA architect. We also have Peter Harrod with us, who is the North America manager for Orbis software. He has over 15 years of experience in enterprise architecture consulting and business process modeling with strong background in IT strategy, architecture, and business analysis. With that brief note, I will hand over the session to Hari to take it forward. Hari, over to you.
Thank you, Ujjwal. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining this webinar from different places around the world. It's my pleasure to meet all of you virtually in this webinar. So today the topic is about enterprise transformation and how enterprise architecture practice supports transformation initiatives. In the current technology world, it's important to adopt an advanced approach to realize better business operations and efficiency. That's why technology becomes a backbone of any business model today. Many CEO and CEOs are realized that, so they already taken some level of transformation initiatives to improve their business and IT operations. Due to that awareness, various transformation projects are being executed across the world for the last few years. However, the disappointing point is only 20% of transformation projects completed successfully, and rest of them still being executed or scrapped. When we talk about success, it's basically to know whether the transformation project met the expectation from the business, completed on time, and executed within the budget. So all these things need to be considered. So that's really disappointing when 20% of projects only completed successfully. At the same time, along with the technology advancement, architecture process are well matured. Therefore, many enterprise architects believe that adopting enterprise architecture would help to reduce the transformation failures and improve the transformation project executions. Therefore, today we are going to walk through on how enterprise architecture practice can support transformation projects. So the topic today are going to be covered in this presentation are what it means by transformation. Top ERP or application enterprise application projects failed in 2011. It's a market report. And what are the 7 factors that caused the transformation project failure? And the differentiator. How the enterprise architecture differs from other architecture model. And a brief overview about enterprise architecture. And this is the core part. We are going to talk about open group TOGAF model and transformation methodology. How TOGAF enterprise architecture approach helps to meet the transformation expectations. How supports the transformation projects in various phases. And we are also going to see the 5 steps for a successful transformation project, and then a rapid EA adoption solution. In theory, transformation means innovation and change. But in the technology world, transformation means innovation and change in both business and IT. Either transformation or IT transformation, either business transformation or IT transformation, there is always a change in the IT structure. Either could be a technology side or could be an organization side. If we take a deeper look into that, 20% of innovation that might trigger 80% of change in the organization. Innovation may include a new product or line of business and marketing approach and strategy and trends. In the current technology world, 80% of change that includes 40% of change in the existing business operation model, or 40% of change happens in the IT organization. It's important to understand the impact of the innovation and change before we get into any transformation projects. So when we are looking at that, 40% of change in the business process, governance, business structure or strategy, anything that's related to the business, that requires change in the technology side. Either it could be a new architectural approach, or could be a new application enablement, or could be a new legacy modernization project. Any major transformation projects require change in the IT infrastructure. That's pretty clear. Either it could be a change in the ERP or application system or legacy modernization. Also, adopting a newer architecture like cloud, SOA, BPM, and MDM considered as part of the transformation initiative. As I said earlier, ERP and apps implementation is most widely executed project for modernizing the IT infrastructure. Either ERP or enterprise-wide application implementation creates impact in the entire organization in the way that was functioning earlier. However, if you take a look on a 2011 report from PC World, 10% of ERP projects are impacted badly for the top organizations. UK government scraps 12 billion national program for IT. I'm sorry, it's pretty slow here. I'm just running through the bullets. The New York City time project stopped due to cost overrun. Inagram Micro boosts SAP project for their Q1 profit dent. Montclair State University sued Oracle over the PeopleSoft project, and Oracle fires back. And Epicor running into a big ERP mess, and this history continues. So a lot of projects, executed over the period, doesn't meet the expectation from the business and also cost overrun. So why all these failures are, could happen? So there are other marketing reports that talk about 7 factors that basically triggering the transformation failure. Inadequate requirement and process definitions. That's a pretty big issue that that could definitely hit the transformation projects to failure. Lack of management commitment, inappropriate IT application selection, inadequate skilled resource, or internal resistance, and lack of architectural guidelines. When we talk about lack of architectural guidelines, without even defining the architecture principles, standards, and processes, if we try to execute a transformation project, we will end up in the highly complex, newer IT landscape where the investment might go higher, and then the operational cost might go higher. So without the architectural guidelines, without the proper definitions from the architectural practices, it's highly risky to execute a transformation project. There is other fact also exists in the web world, like a risk factor. There are many transformation projects that executed over the period in 2010 and 2009. It took longer than expected time, and the cost exceeds the budget, and benefit also comparing to very less what they were expecting. So when we look at the whole various factors, it's all highly correlated with each other. So we strongly believe that all these factors can be easily addressed if we follow a well-defined enterprise architecture practice. If you take a typical organization, there are three major departments that should work together. They are application management, infrastructure management, and project management office. Either application architect or IT architect, predominantly focusing on application architecture and infrastructure architecture. However, enterprise architecture practice focus more into business and IT organization. A lack of enterprise-wide impact analysis, holistic view are the two major processes that impact many transformation initiatives. So key differentiator between the typical IT organization and the enterprise architecture practice is basically the holistic view. Enterprise architecture always differs from other architecture practices. Traditionally, IT architecture predominantly focusing on the IT application solution, but limited to business operations. However, enterprise architecture practice focus on a balanced approach for both business operation and IT operation. It helps to bridge the gap between the business and IT vision. A complete holistic view and procedures makes the transformation initiatives as shown in the right side image, wherein typical IT architecture or solution architecture practice that provides that basically a lack of holistic view. However, when assembling various components sometimes it comes with a poor design. Wherein the holistic view of enterprise architecture practice that comes with a complete vision and well-defined strategy and plan and processes that helps to design a well-expected IT landscape. Before we get into a deep dive in enterprise architecture and how enterprise architecture helps the transformation project, let's take a quick overview of what is enterprise architecture means. As per Open Group, enterprise architecture is all about optimizing the enterprise into highly collaborative environment with ability to align the operations to meet the business strategy. There are other characteristics that enterprise architecture practice brings in. It provides standards and principles across enterprises, both in business and IT operations. It provides a strategy to execute various projects to meet the business vision, understand the current IT capability and the expectation from the business, and provide a strategic approach to execute various projects to meet the business expectations. And other key point is EA need not focus on only on the long-term goals, but also can help to meet the short-term expectations. In order to understand IT alignments and business models, EA focus on 4 key architectural areas: business architecture, data architecture, application architecture, or technology architecture. All these architectural definitions, processes, and models can be stored in the enterprise repository, which can be accessible from various group of enterprise, either from the business or IT, to understand what is really needs to be done while executing the various projects. So enterprise architecture focus on all the expectations both on business and IT. Now let me explain you quick overview about TOGAF ADM. For this webinar, let us focus on the Oracle Open Group TOGAF model. TOGAF framework comes with an architecture methodology called TOGAF ADM. ADM stands for Architecture Development Method. TOGAF clearly defines a systematic architecture approach to adapt architecture practices that helps to streamline the IT direction. ADM is a core part of TOGAF model. ADM also focus on some of the key architectural areas, as we have seen in the previous page. It helps to define the architecture definitions. When we talk about definitions, it includes the scope of the architecture practice and what needs to be done, what are the strategy, what are the various IT functions needs to be considered, business function needs to be considered, what is the strategy to take the various architecture initiatives to the next level. So all these things are covered in the architectural definitions. And also it covers business architecture, information architecture, and technology architecture. The other processes that defined or phases that defined in the TOGAF ADM are highly related to how we execute the governance model, what is the migration strategy, how we execute the migration by taking the current architecture to the newer architecture, and how we manage the changes. When the architecture change management is highly important to manage the changes and continuously evolve the architecture. So that helps the both business and IT to understand what's really IT capability and business capability and what needs to be done. This is the core part of this presentation. So basically, I'm trying to map the transformation phase versus TOGAF ADM. In a typical transformation initiatives, there are 3 steps executed. Basically, the initial would be the assessment, where understand what is need by what is the required transformation initiatives, what needs to be changed in the business and IT, and how we improve the processes, and what kind of technology adoption needs to be taken place. So such things will be in a discussion on the at the brainstorming sessions, and then the self-assessment should be executed. Whereas in ADM, TOGAF ADM, the preliminary phase and the architecture revision phase focus predominantly on the assessment. It basically understand what is the current IT capability and what is the business vision, what are the project needs to be executed, and what are the phases, and how we can define the architecture standards, processes, and principles, and how we can take the execute the various architecture initiatives to guide the various projects, IT projects, and business projects to take to the next level. So pretty much the preliminary and the architecture revision phase can provide valuable input to the assessment phase of a transformation project. So such inputs will be helpful for the leadership to take appropriate decision on what kind of a technology needs to be adopted, what kind of a process can be quickly adopted, what can be later adopted, and all these inputs will be valuable to the leadership. And the next one is basically a transformation phase, where we try to implement some IT projects. As I said earlier, like any change that happens in the business, in the current world, it is highly related to the IT. So it's all highly correlated. So today I'm taking a model called Oracle Application Implementation Methodology. Any Oracle ERP implementation or apps implementation project that executed across the enterprise has to go through the Oracle AIM methodology, as following the AIM methodology. So, so this Oracle AIM methodology, what are the various deliverables from the Oracle AIM methodology, and what are the various deliverables from the TOGAF ADM process that can be directly mapping with each other, and I will go deeper into that in the next page. And so I'm going to focus on the consolidation. So the next level is consolidation. In the consolidation, where once we develop the architectural solution or the application solution, we have to roll out into different phases to the organization. Either could be a pilot project, or to a specific business unit, or could be in a different approach. So where there is a need of governance, how we implement the transformation initiatives that we have taken into the various departments or business units, and what are the changes needs to be addressed, how the changes will be addressed, what is the process needs to be defined. So those things also covered as part of the TOGAF ADM, not specific transformation in general, how the architecture needs to be changed, what is the implementation governance model. Such valuable inputs can be taken into the while consolidating the transformation projects and taking to that. So pretty much all the three phases, TOGAF ADM can and enterprise architecture practice can create or provide the inputs to the transformation project, help the transformation project to execute at various stages. So TOGAF ADM deliverables are directly mapping with Oracle AIM phase by deliverables. Probably we can take either Oracle or SAP. If you take SAP ASAP methodology, either Oracle AIM or SAP ASAP methodology, both can can get an input from the enterprise practice or require input from the enterprise practices, and our enterprise practice can support them in executing various architectural initiations and processes and standards, in a much streamlined manner. So let's take Oracle AIM. Oracle Application Implementation Methodology comes with various phases. Either Oracle or any other methodology predominantly focusing on the project management, business processes, application and technology, and then data, how the data needs to be defined, the data modeling, and then testing and the implementation strategy. Whereas in TOGAF ADM comes with the core phases that starts from the architecture revision and then ending in the migration planning. So if you take a look on architecture revision, the deliverables or the executions by the architecture revision phase is basically defines the architecture model, defines the baseline and the target architecture, and what is the principles to be followed to streamline various projects, various IT projects. So the architecture revision can provide valuable input before we take the transformation project or before we start executing any application implementation methodology. And the business process. Basically part of the business architecture where processes architecture is defined, modeling is defined, and what is business definitions are defined. So even before we executed any enterprise-wide application implementation methodology, we need input about the business model, how the business functioning, and what is the process architecture, all the stuff. So either the practice can provide, the enterprise architecture practice can provide a valuable input to the various phases of the application implementation methodology, especially on business process phases, and helping them to understand what really means, what is the target that enterprises wants to achieve, and how they can streamline the application implementation, how they configure the application systems to meet such process expectations. And the other phase is the information system architecture, where data architecture and application architecture are highly prepared and then defined by the enterprise architecture practice. Such informations will be helpful when the project executing the application architecture phase or modeling the application design and the data modeling or conversions. So that's pretty much, again, in the TOGAF ADM practice can provide a valuable input. Technical architecture is predominantly focusing on the technology stack and then infrastructure, and then how the modeling and designing and mapping between the technology and the solutions. So pretty much, again, it can provide an input to application and technology architecture, and that should be executed by the transformation initiative or transformation project to streamline the IT organization into the much better way. And then project management. It's basically not a generic project management, wherein TOGAF ADM opportunity and solution phase provides input on how to execute various architecture projects to streamline the IT organizational capabilities. So that also again can help to define the project management and the scheduling and part, and how we can execute the enterprise-wide application implementation by following the TOGAF guidelines. And the last one is migration strategy. It's very important when we are taking the transformation projects. It's a very pain phase where we have to understand the users' expectations and provide the users, and always there is a change. When we execute the transformation project, there is a change. There is a restrictions from the user community, but we have to properly educate and then understand them. And this migration strategy basically provides input on how we can execute various project into the various business unit or operational unit or other departments. So pretty much TOGAF's core phases, initial phases, can provide valuable inputs to the any implementation methodology and help the project implementation methodology or transformation projects to execute as per the guidelines prepared by the TOGAF. That also helps to execute and streamline the process. That's the absolute expectations out of the transformation projects. So based on our experience, we have defined 5 key steps that we should execute before we take any transformation projects. The first thumb rule is know your position before you start, just like GPS. If you take a look at the GPS, it starts with where we stand and where we have to go and how we can take the directions to meet the target. Enterprise architecture practice is very similar to that. It basically provides valuable inputs. So the first step before we execute any transformation project is to understand whether are we ready for the transformations. Business transformation readiness assessment is the key first step that should be executed before we take any transformation initiatives. TOGAF framework provides architectural guidelines and maturity levels and assessment methodology to execute the transformation readiness assessment. And the next step would be the enterprise architecture maturity assessment to understand where we stand now, what is the current IT capability. So that helps to understand the current capability. And then execute or build a enterprise architecture team or practice and define the scope for them. And then take a look at on how to establish an enterprise repository that can help to capture all the information required and store that in the centralized repository and things like that. Peter is going to talk about how the enterprise architecture repository can be established quickly and how it can help to build the enterprise architecture practice quickly by using Orbis iServer's product. And then define the baseline IT capability and then go ahead to the transformation project. So all these inputs will be helpful for the transformation project and leadership to understand what is meant by real transformation project and what are the things need to be executed and how we should execute the transformation project and what is the expectation out of the transformation initiative. So the final thing is about what is rapid adoption. Basically, we are Aspire is an enterprise solution consulting company. We provide various solutions in the area of enterprise architecture consulting. So I'm just waiting for the page to load. Okay, here it is. So, basically we follow the TOGAF 9 framework as our consulting practice, and we have a well-defined methodology for assessment based on the TOGAF guidelines, and also our solutions are can be bundled with the Orbis iServer product, and we have a clear defined methodology on the enterprise architecture implementation. So with all these capabilities, we can help the enterprises to take the transformation projects by adopting enterprise architecture practices. With that, I would like to hand over to Peter, who is going to present on how Orbis iServer can help to execute the enterprise architecture practice, build the practice, and how data is to be captured in the enterprise repository, and many more. Thanks again, and Peter, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much, Harihan. So let me just wait until I've been given control. Excellent, looks like I am. So let me start out by thanking Aspire Systems for giving me the opportunity to present in conjunction with them today. We've been in contact with them for several months now. Let me start by introducing Orbis, the company that provides our product iServer. Headquartered in London, England, but with offices around the globe. I'm in a very sunny day in Washington, D.C. right now, and customers around the globe as well. Tend to be the larger, the blue chip, but some medium-sized enterprise as well, depending on their need for enterprise architecture repositories. Now, Orbis has a specific mission. A very common scenario, as Hariharan has said, is where you've got these organizations, they're starting out. Quite often we find that these organizations create their work product in Visio and Office, which is a natural thing to do. It's what you've got installed and it's what you know. And this is a sensible thing to do, but it's got limitations. How do you search across all of your diagrams, and how do you report across all of them, and how do you share information between diagrams, and how do you elicit feedback from stakeholders? This is often one of the considerations that drives people towards a very high-end complex modeling tool, but then they find that they're spending more time on the tool than they are on actually doing their transformation, which kind of defeats the object. So the mission of Orbis is, how can you enable people to manage your transformation work products, the creations that Aspire and other experts create? How do you manage them, how do you report on them, and how do you use them on an ongoing basis while staying within Visio? So this is what we attempt to achieve: collaborative Visio. Every member of the team working off a central repository, sharing information between diagrams and documents, and reporting on the same, and at the same time sharing all of this work with stakeholders, because let's face it, Harihan was talking about the ADM, and one of the key parts of the ADM is stakeholder review, because let's face it, your transformation is going to fall flat unless you've got your stakeholders and your subject matter experts on board. Part of that is sharing your drafts, sharing the approved work products with them, communications, getting their feedback, getting their buy-in. Now, I've described putting Visio and Office documents into a central repository and sharing them over the web. And perhaps obvious response would be, isn't that SharePoint? Well, no. The key part about doing your transformation exercise is understanding the dependencies, understanding what needs to change, understanding what needs to change when. So it may seem like splitting hairs, but what is really important is not the diagrams or the documents. It's the things that are on them. It's the servers you're describing, the applications, the business functions, all of the things that you're going to need to change in your transformation effort. And that's what we're basically bringing on top of Visio. It's a repository of entities, objects, things, call them what you want. Each Visio shape is tied to an underlying record in the repository. So the same business function or the same server could be appearing on 6 diagrams or 10 diagrams for different projects, different programs, in a reference model perhaps. We don't really mind. The big point is that you've got reusable objects being realized as Visio shapes. So effectively your diagrams are acting as windows into an underlying model. So you contrast that with SharePoint. It's a document store, and it's not focused on modeling and reporting, and most especially on getting that interaction with stakeholders. So that core idea is supplemented by a couple of modules: Portal, Publisher, Data Exchange, and Reporting Services. Portal and Publisher are two alternative web views. I mentioned how sharing the entities, sharing the objects with stakeholders is quite critical for getting their buy-in, getting their feedback. Portal is the online version, runs off IIS. Anything that's in the repository is visible via the portal, as long as people have the permissions for it. Publisher, in contrast, is a wizard that generates a static website, so tends to be used a bit less, but there are customers who need that for certain reasons. Can't use an online dynamic website. Data exchange, very common scenario is that you have to bring information in from other sources, CMDBs, application catalogs, and so on. We enable that through import via XML and Excel. And then, last of all, reporting services enables you to query the actual back-end repository. Maybe about 5% of customers actually need that capability, but it's important to have that in your back pocket. Any decent repository tool must be able to support good reporting, good searching after all. The other part of a good EA repository is support for standards. And while our tool can support any standard, we have specific accelerators for specific uses: TOGAF, BPA, ITIL, SCORE, ETOM. Effectively meaning that you can pick it up and run with it. So, as Harry was talking about how you could use the ADM to drive your transformation process, then it would be logical to implement your TOGAF repository, your TOGAF out-of-the-box solution, so that you don't have to make any decisions about how you configure the tool. You can just pick it up and run with it. So, all in all, the core engine, the ability to manage objects as Visio shapes, extensions to share information with the stakeholder community, get information in and out, and wide support for standards. But the beauty of being based around Visio is that you can support any standard. If you can do it in Visio, you can do it in iServer. Let's dwell on that point. The thing about Visio is there's 24 million people out there. Well, I think that may be an underestimate. But it's widely used, and it's been around for a long time. Lots of IP sunk into it. Lots of cool features like data graphics, auto-alignment, things like data-driven shapes, searching. In 2013, something that I think is very sexy that they're bringing in is find and replace. So you can find and replace across diagrams. We had to kind of implement that ourselves, so it's nice to see that going into the core product of Visio. And you have got that constant releasing, the constant updating, new things coming in. And let's face it, it's what people know. Visio is what people have on their desktop. show me an architect who hasn't drawn something in Visio at some point in their life, and I will show you somebody who deserves to be on the news. We do support all of the versions of Visio. Just as an example of some of the cool things that came in Visio 2010. So don't underestimate the importance of being able to continue doing your diagrams in a Visio environment. So with iServer, there's really 6 key points, 6 key values that we offer. Pick it up and run with it from day one because of the ease of use, the low training, couple of hours. Low risk, stay in your Visio environment. It's just Visio Plus. If you need to move away from us, just save them to your hard disk. Ease of use, so that you can pick it up and run with it without having to try and puzzle over how to do X, Y, or Z. And that feeds into low cost of ownership. We're also pretty cheap compared to certain other products I could name. Extremely flexible. We can support any notation, any standards. And the training overhead is minimal. You want to be spending your time on your transformation exercise. You want to be spending your time engaging with Aspire. You don't want to be spending your time figuring out how to do stuff. So this has drawn the attention of the analyst community. Sorry, the presentation just froze up there and jumped me through a couple of slides. Let me jump back so we can see what some of the analysts are saying about us. Apparently Gartner does have a formal definition of what a cool vendor is. Don't ask me to recite it though. So at this point I'm going to reiterate my thanks to Aspire for giving me this opportunity to present in conjunction with them, and hand the floor back to Ujjwal to see if there's any questions.
Thanks, Peter and Hari. We do have few questions which I will float in now, and I will request others as well to please pass on all your questions through the questions and chat window. Okay, the first question we have coming in is, I do have a problem with TOGAF, data and applications in the same module. Could we consider having data and applications on separate modules and application system as a connection between the two of them?
I think definitely we can do that, and we have to do that. Application and data needs to be separated, and that gives control on when we migrating or upgrading the application systems. So the data, the business runs based on the data, so the data need not be attached with the applications. I hope even our bus iServer also helps to differentiate that. Peter, do you have any specific answer to this question?
Yes, actually, it's funny because when you look at TOGAF, they've kind of fudged it, and the data and applications are part 1 and part 2 of phase C. What we've done in our iServer product is we've actually separated them out into separate areas because they are separate disciplines with separate challenges. Absolutely.
Okay. Hope that answers the question. We have another question here. The question is, I have multiple lines of business applications, example payroll system, HR system, project management system, QuickBooks for accounting, asset management system, etc. How do I go about defining the IT strategy for the company?
This is pretty much depending on what needs to be done. Basically, when we have a distributed application systems, It's highly complex to manage various systems that developed in a different or built in a different technologies. So first we need to understand what is really the business wants to achieve before we get into the strategy, and then understand what are the various pains that currently exist in the IT landscape, and how we can improve the systems, what needs to be addressed immediately, what needs to be addressed in a later stage. So we have to define that, and then we can go with the strategy on how we can execute that. When we talk about strategy, it's basically from the enterprise architecture standpoint, it's basically a strategy on how we execute various architecture initiatives and guidelines to drive the existing applications to the newer architecture model. Either could be a custom solution or could be a new application adoption. Anything that needs to be done can be executed by phases. So the strategy, when we talk about strategy, we have to understand first what the business wants to do that, and then what we from the IT organization finds we need to improve and consolidate that and come up with a strategic solution by make use of the enterprise TOGAF ADM phases.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Another question we have now is, what can TOGAF really add? I knew that it defines the steps, objectives, and goals for coming up with a preferred architecture, but can't I work this out from a top-down Jackman approach?
Definitely, either TOGAF or Jackman, it's all basically providing a framework. So we need to understand what really we want to execute and how we can customize the framework to meet our expectations. Either we follow the TOGAF model or Jackman model. We need to understand what really we want to execute as part of the scope of the enterprise architecture, and then go with that model and then customizing that.
Okay. Well, meanwhile the questions are floating in. We would also request the attendees to check our enterprise architecture maturity calculator at aspiresys.com/EACalc. Well, coming to our next question. How would you discover and document a new and complex business architecture? How would you and the tool help? Example, approaches, templates, etc.
I think Peter can answer this question.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the full question. Could you repeat it, Ujjwal?
Surely. How would you discover and document a new and complex business architecture? How would you and the tool help? Example, approaches, templates, etc.
Sure. Okay, so there's two parts to how you can do that. So first of all is what existing work products might exist. And that's going to depend a lot on how the organization's worked. I mean, have they ever tried to document their organizational structure in the past? Have they ever maybe documented some of their business processes for different projects? And in that situation, if we've got anything like that in Visio or PowerPoint or whatever, then we would bring it into the tool, and then you can start searching on it. That will probably not give you a full picture, but it will give you a starting point for maybe what are your processes, what are your organizational units, what are your business functions, which you can then fill in. Second thing is implementing various reference models. So, for example, you've got the American Process Quality Council's process classification framework, which is quite good. If you're in the telecoms arena, then you've got obviously ETOM as a working starting point. Supply chains, you've got SCORE. If you're working to define the business architecture, at least on the IT side, then you've got ITIL. So take one of those reference implementations, and then because of the way our tool works, you can copy and modify very easily. And then the third is really, plain old interviews, documentation, and running drafts past stakeholders. And there where the tool adds value is more in managing it and enabling them to consult online and getting their feedback, their comments. So those are the three real prongs that we've seen work in various organizations using the tool. I don't know if Harry's got anything that he can add to that.
I hope you answered the question, Peter. But one point, when we talk about the business process, how do we capture the business process and architecture? It's basically, we need to understand what a really business model is, define the business model, and understand what are the various current processes happening, and try to capture that either using Visio, BPMN, or any other presentational model, or kind of a simple workflow model, and then try to streamline that by using the modeling tool and then store it in the iServer repository. That helps to capture information slowly and then improving the process capturing process, and then streamlining that. That definitely helps on the process capturing point of view.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Another question we have at this point is there any tool which can give us our current TOGAF maturity model and give us roadmap to achieve higher maturity level? What tools are available and cost?
I think they are again asking about the enterprise architecture maturity level, right?
Yes. It is on to assess the current TOGAF maturity model and
yes.
give us the roadmap. Yes,
yeah, definitely they can use our enterprise architecture EA calculator. That can provide basically provide a maturity level, what level of maturity the enterprise architecture practice, and what needs to be improved. And when we talk about the tool, basically we created our EA calculator based on TOGAF and US Department of Commerce guidelines. Basically, they created an IT architecture assessment framework and maturity model. So we followed that and created this EA calculator tool. Instead of manually doing all the stuff, the calculator tool helps to understand. And if you need extensive assessment and understand what really the level in detail, understand the roadmap, then definitely from Aspire, we have a enterprise architecture assessment consulting. Basically, we get into the customer and then understand in detail about their business and IT architectural models, and then we come up with the recommendations on how we and roadmap to guide the customer to take it to the next level.
Okay, thank you. So I'll request the person who asked the question to use our calculator and have a look at the questions there to understand how we can measure the architecture maturity level currently. Okay. Well, we still have around 5 minutes, so I'll request if anybody else has any questions to please pass that on to us. Meanwhile, Hari and Peter, would you like to add anything else out here?
I can't think of anything that we haven't really covered off. Just one thing to highlight. I mean, people questioned Hari referencing TOGAF, but remember that TOGAF is almost explicitly a toolbox. One of the first steps in the preliminary phase of TOGAF is tailor the framework. So, arguably any initiative that doesn't consider which parts of TOGAF are relevant is not following TOGAF.
Okay. Hari, you have any other points to add?
Definitely one point that I would like to present. Basically, since we are taking a TOGAF, we are talking about the TOGAF model. Even though the TOGAF framework comes with various phases and then various process and principles. TOGAF is highly flexible, so it's allowing us to customize the need and how we can consider various scopes, and then how we can streamline the IT architecture. So it's basically, we need not go into the kind of following strictly on the framework that provided, but we need to really customize that to meet our expectation. That really helps us to reduce time and cost on taking a highly mature enterprise architecture practice. That's that's all my point. Yeah.
Sure. So, well, we do have a couple of minutes left. I'd request again all the attendees to please pass on your questions if you have any at this point of time. Going forward with this, we'll be sharing all the recording of the presentation with all the attendees in 2 to 3 business days. And as well as if you have any further questions for our speakers, you can email them to us at ea@aspiresys.com, and we'll be glad to answer them for you. Well, I believe we do not have any further questions, so maybe we can wind up the session. So thank you everyone for joining us for this educational session. Hope it was a good learning session and a good learning experience for all of us. Meanwhile, if you have any questions, kindly email them at ea@aspiresys.com. I'd also thank both the speakers, Peter and Harry, for taking out their time to educate us about enterprise architecture and different TOGAF models and other architecture models. Thanks again. Have a very nice day. Bye-bye.